Hi, my name is Akinseye Brown. We're in Philadelphia at the wonderful Mount Airy Arts Garage, and this is Black Sci-Fi TV. My name is Akinseye Brown. I am a storyteller, I'm a visual artist. I grew up in Germantown, but mainly in Mount Airy. I think art is the way that that group or community or people expresses themselves. You can use art to tell your own history, you can use art to teach about the future, and you can use art to show what it is to live in your society currently. I think art is a way of a people's expression, if you will. Sokoya Productions is the company that I created to be able to produce my artwork. And I use Sokoya Productions to share my art with the world. Generally, the mission statement for Sokoya Productions is to create artwork and stories that have African foundations. I think it's through storytelling that we begin to find our own identity. People that benefit from storytelling, it comes in all different shapes and sizes and ages. I think that in my mind, I think of young people primarily, but I know that my audience is greater than that. And I know that people that consume stories are not just young people, they're definitely older people like myself. I don't know where I would be without consuming stories myself. So I watch television, I read books, and stories are everywhere. You know, even watching the news and reading about history, it's all storytelling. So I think my work falls within that. It's definitely entertainment. It's definitely meant to make one, feel good or have a sense of escapism, but also give them something that can nurture their cultural side. I choose to work basically in sci-fi fantasy realm, those types of images and stories that I create, primarily because that's kind of what I grew up with. I grew up with all of the sci-fi television shows, avid comic book reader as a kid, and just the potential of the future and what the future could hold for one character or for a people, I think is just very powerful, very alluring, and also extremely entertaining, extremely entertaining. My visual aesthetic, I believe, comes from my parents. My mother being a fashion designer and my father being a traditional painter gave me aspects of their artistic styles just in the home. Either something was hanging up or someone was wearing something. And for me, when I began to draw and began to have my own voice in art, a lot of my mother's fashion sense and my father's graphic design and painterly sense kind of melded and blended together. And even as an adult, I can still see it in my work now. Many of the characters that I create, either in my comic book stories or in the quote-unquote artistic prints that I create online, have a sense of fashion. You know, the blazer looks a certain way, or it has a certain print to it, or someone has a type of hat that has a certain lining to it. And so that obviously comes from my mother's sensibilities. But then when you look at things like the types of colors that I use or the type of line work that I create, I would say that comes from some of my father's sensibilities as a painter, illustrator, and graphic designer. And I've always had a love for graphic design and how composition plays a role in all types of artwork, whether it's illustration, whether it's comic book work, whether it's the fine arts, and obviously when you're dealing with things like logo creation and things like that, and publication. Graphic design is very prominent in my work, even if I'm not putting together a publication. If it's just an illustration, you can see some of the very crisp, strong areas of color that just have certain areas and regions that you're supposed to focus on that kind of drives your eye to another area. I have a comic book called Sankofa, and that is about a African-American physicist that goes to West Africa, that learns about himself as an African person culturally. He becomes a Pan-Africanist, but then he also gets involved in a scientific accident. There's always an accident that gives him amazing superpowers, that gives him the ability to multiply himself into many selves. So his story is really about him still needing the community around him for support. What I would tell a young person interested in art, or people that are interested in continuing their exploration or their expression in art, is to be true to yourself. Use your family stories and use your personal identity as the foundation for anything that you speak about creatively. A lot of times I use my family experiences and the experiences I have gotten from my mother and father, and even their some of their creative vision to come through in my artwork. And I find a lot of value and a lot of power within that. But many artists that I find that are successful have culture as their basis. So whatever culture that artist comes from is the basis of that artwork, and that's what makes it the most beautiful thing in the world.